I'm Tom, 57, a union elevator mechanic turned field foreman, which means when something heavy, expensive, and stubborn refuses to move, people call me. I married Claire 8 years ago. She brought two adult kids into the family. Caleb, 32, ambitious on LinkedIn and mysteriously unemployed in real life, and Brooke, 29, who loves to say she's between opportunities and somehow always in the middle of everyone else's plans. My blood daughter Emma is 30, a NICU nurse. Her little girl, June, is 5, which means she's small, she's honest, and she sleeps like a starfish that just won the ocean. I host Christmas. It's the one thing I won't outsource or rotate. I'm from a family where you fix things and you feed people. We do it simple. Real tree, good food, no lectures. Everyone has a bed. This year was supposed to be easier than last because I finished the attic conversion, new insulation, two proper skylights, a queen bed, and a small day bed that kids fight over like it's a pirate ship. The guest room on the main floor is the quiet one. In the last few years, that's been the kid room because it has a door right across from the bathroom. Straight line, short feet, less drama. The first tremor hit a week before Christmas. Group text. You know the kind, weak punctuation with strong entitlement. Caleb wrote, "Heads up, we'll need the downstairs guest room this year. Brooke needs space. We'll just put the kid on a blanket in the living room. It's fine." He didn't write your granddaughter or June. He wrote the kid. Brooke followed with a heart emoji and, "I have skincare that can't be near drafts. Last year the attic destroyed my routine. The attic has a heat pump I installed myself." I kept my thumbs on the steering wheel and didn't reply. I was parked in the yard of a 12-story office building while a client explained to me why their freight car just stopped. I listened to him, nodded, walked the shaft, saw the soda machine jammed against the door, and moved the one thing that needed moving. The car hummed back to life like it never had a problem. That's the thing about heavy systems and holidays. They break because someone shoved the wrong machine in the wrong place and called it inevitable. That night, I set the rule. Privately, out loud, in my kitchen. June gets a bed. Everyone else negotiates around that. Call it the fairness ledger. Call it common sense. Call it the way grown men keep their blood pressure. We don't put kids on the floor while influencers between opportunities protect their serums from imaginary drafts. I replied the next morning with a neutral sentence and a receipt. Beds are assigned. Downstairs guest room for June and Emma. Attic queen for Brooke. Attic daybed for Caleb. Bathroom is shared. Everyone is an adult. We'll survive. Caleb called in under 30 seconds. On cue. He didn't say hello. He said, "Tom, you're not even her real grandpa. You can be flexible." I said, "I am flexible. I just flex in the direction of the smallest bones." He laughed that laugh people do when they think they just won because they were louder. "We're driving 5 hours. We're not sleeping under a skylight like raccoons." I told him there were blackout shades. He said, and I quote, "June can sleep on the floor in a sleeping bag like kids do at sleepovers. She'll be fine. I don't teach lessons with decibels. I teach with paperwork. I hung up. I brewed coffee. I moved the tree. I don't mean I dragged it 2 feet for ambiance. I mean I emptied the downstairs guest room, vacuumed the pine needles, and set that tree in the corner like a 7-foot promise. I put June's small bed by the wall with a warm quilt and a string of soft lights over her head. Her stocking hung from the bedpost. The room smelled like forest and cinnamon. On the nightstand, a tiny ceramic deer my mother kept for me when I was 5. Beside it, a card with June's name, printed in 36-point font, because 5-year-olds are new to big letters. For good measure, I moved the basket of storybooks in there too, and stacked the Jolly Postman on top. In the living room, I rolled up the generic gray cot that never loved anyone and put it back in the garage. Then I opened my laptop and booked Caleb and Brooke a room at the motel 2 minutes from my driveway. 2 queens, no pet fee, late check-in, week of Christmas pricing. I booked it for one night only, Christmas Eve, because I believe in first chances and in letting adults choose their next decision with fresh oxygen. I paid the refundable hold and wrote a note on the reservation. Guest to pay at check-in, card required. I printed the reservation and slid it into a red envelope with their names. Not because I wanted to be petty, because hotels do not run on my patience and my house does not run on their assumptions. 2 days before Christmas, Claire asked me if I was serious about the motel. I said yes, She worried about feelings. I said boundaries shorten fights. She asked if this was about me not liking her kids. I told her the truth. I don't dislike them. I dislike ideas that cut children down to make room for adult comfort. If we cave to that once, we'll do it forever. Claire is kind in the way that lets other people borrow her spine. She held my look, exhaled, and said, "Okay, but I will not referee at the door." I said, "Good. I brought a front desk." Christmas Eve afternoon. The house was warm, smells right, music low. I was in the kitchen, basting a ham with mustard and brown sugar, when Emma arrived with June. June ran past me and into her room, and then ran back out with the ceramic deer. "Pop, is this for me?" I said yes, and watched her entire skeleton relax. She put the deer back like placing a crown, and rarely do I get to see a person prove the entire thesis of my life in a single quiet move. The person you protect knows it before you say it. You would think that would be the mood. It almost was. At 6:13 in the evening, a text from Caleb. "We're 5 minutes out. Make sure the downstairs room is cleared. We're not hauling suitcases up ladders. The attic has a proper staircase." I set my phone down like it was made of soap. I checked the envelope. I placed it on the hall table under the bowl of oranges like a polite landmine. I told Emma what I'd done because daughters deserve to know how the weather will be. She pressed her lips together and smiled with her eyes like nurses do when the crash cart is ready. The doorbell announced their arrival exactly how you would expect. Press, hold, press, like the button owed them more ring. Claire opened. I stood back. Caleb walked in with his coat unzipped and his voice zipped high. "I told you we need the ground floor." Brooke followed with a diffuser and 2 suitcases and a rolling makeup case that looked like it could house a small drummer. June came out, saw them, and did what happy children do. She waved and told them about the deer. Brooke kissed her forehead and, without looking at me, asked, "Where are we sleeping?" "In the attic," I said, calm, lifting the ham out of the oven like it was a normal night in a normal family. Caleb scoffed. "Very funny. Where's the guest room key? We don't lock bedrooms." Claire handed him the red envelope. He looked at it like it was a bill. He opened it, saw the printed reservation and the sticky note I'd put on it, walked 2 minutes, show this to the clerk, they'll hand you keys, and he barked a laugh that had no humor in it. "What is this?" he said. I wiped my hands. "It's what happens when adults decide a child should sleep on hardwood while a skincare routine gets climate control." He stared, then picked the worst possible sentence for a man to say in my house. "You're not even blood." There is a tug I feel sometimes, the one that starts in my jaw and ends in my hands, where my old climbing calluses live. That tug wanted a speech. I gave it a boundary. "Caleb," I said, "this conversation ends here. The downstairs room is for June and her mother. Your room is paid in the only currency the man of this house respects, your own card at check-in." He puffed, the universal bird of entitlement. Brooke looked at Claire as if a parent could flip a switch. Claire said nothing. Her hands were in her pockets. It's what she does to keep them from apologizing for other people. Caleb said, "We're not going to some motel like felons." I said, "It's 2 minutes away. It's clean. It has thicker curtains than my attic. And it will give us all the gift of your attitude being someone else's problem until morning." Brooke pointed at the guest room door like a courtroom laser pointer. "We are not doing stairs." Emma stepped forward, finally, calm. Hospital voice. "Brooke, I work 12-hour nights running ventilators on babies. I can do stairs. You can do stairs. June cannot do hardwood. If you can't support that, the motel's going to make you sign a paper in big letters. You'll like it." Caleb looked at the envelope and at the tree through the crack of the guest room door and at the little bed and the tiny ceramic deer. He tried to make his face do something nonchalant and failed into sour. "Fine," he said. "We'll check in." He plucked the car keys from his pocket like he was performing power. Brooke huffed, and the diffuser made an embarrassed little clink against the rolling case as they turned toward the door. At the motel, the front desk asked for their card. They were shocked. The clerk, a woman named Tara, with nails like stained glass windows, looked at them over her glasses and recited the script that protects motels from groan. "Toddlers. We'll put a hold that releases at checkout. It's policy. Caleb called me in the parking lot to rage whisper that your little stunt is humiliating. I said, I'm at peace with that if the lesson sticks. He said, "We're family." I said, "Exactly." They checked in. The house settled back to warm. We ate, we laughed. June fell asleep under her string lights with the deer keeping watch. I stepped onto the porch with a cup of coffee and listened to the far-off highway breathe. At 10:41 in the evening, my phone buzzed. A series of texts from Caleb about the motel air smelling like citrus and Brooke's back issue and how Mom should have fought for us. I sent one sentence. "Sleep well. See you at 9 for breakfast." At 10:52, a new text. "We're not coming back if we're treated like this." I didn't reply. Boundary plus silence is an underrated duet. They arrived at 9:17 the next morning, jittery and underslept, with a plan. You can spot a plan when people walk like they've been rehearsing an injustice. Brooke entered without greeting and hovered by the guest room door like a cat pretending not to want in. Caleb announced to the kitchen, "We'll be using the downstairs room to get ready. She needs a flat surface for her makeup. It's time sensitive." He had the tone of a man who thinks a new script rewrites the first act. I gestured toward the hall like I was doing a product demo. "Take a look." He opened the guest room door and saw the tree and the bed and the storybooks and the name card and the ceramic deer. He saw June's little sweater folded like a promise. He saw it and he knew. He shut the door quietly because all loud men shut doors quietly when the room tells the truth. And then he pivoted to the last refuge. Parking. "Where am I supposed to leave the car?" he said, like the driveway owed him a private lane. "Behind Emma," I said. "We back out like a conga line. It's Christmas, not the Indy 500. He grunted. Brooke clutched her diffuser like a rosary. Claire poured coffee into a mug without looking up. Emma buttered toast for June and said, "Aunt Brooke, the attic has a full-length mirror and a vanity. It's actually nicer light for makeup." Brooke said, "I'm not a raccoon again," and June, God bless the unedited honesty of 5, said, "Raccoons have little hands. If the story ended here, the internet would accuse me of going soft." But remember, that was just the start. Because entitlement isn't a single push, it's a policy inside somebody's head, and I fix bad policies. I had already planned the rest of the day in chapters. Short, clear, no room to wriggle. 1. Breakfast. 2. Presents for the children first. 3. Adults follow the schedule on the fridge. 4. Dinner at 6, phones docked. 5. A rule reads itself out loud. At noon, after the stockings and the Lego explosion, and the way adults recall they are actually children when tape is involved, Caleb removed himself to the living room and began the social media sermon about traditions being disrespected to an audience of 3 people he graduated high school with in 2010. I watched the corners of his mouth as he typed. The corners didn't believe him. Brooke wandered the hall like a search party for compliments. Every few minutes she tested the guest room door like maybe the lock would have changed its mind. At 2 in the afternoon, Chapter 3, Adults Open Their Gifts. I handed Brooke a rectangular box. She opened it like she wanted the paper to live. Inside, a front door keypad with a second code. She looked up, puzzled. I said, "It's a gift for me that's really a gift for you." I set a temporary code for the attic. "It expires tomorrow. You won't have to ask me to go do your skincare." Sometimes the most devastating revenge is functional generosity, the kind that makes a person notice how much they assumed without paying. Caleb opened his, a leather-bound notebook. On the first page in my slow block letters, job log, hours worked, invoices sent, people paid. A heavy pen clipped to the cover. Claire did a tiny inhale. Caleb tried to smirk. "Cute," I said. "You're good at planning everyone else's day. Try your own." He didn't like that mirror. He hurled the only tool he knows, volume. "You're acting like I'm some charity case." I said, "No. Charity would put a bow on it. This is a bill." He stood. Brooke stood. Claire stood too, but she stood a different way. Spine tall, hands out of pockets, the way a woman stands when she is choosing to let the collision happen in the open. Emma kept her seat and her eye on June. "Okay," Caleb said. "If this is how you're going to be, we'll just go back to the motel and check out." "Great," I said. "They'll love to see your card again." He sputtered. "We shouldn't have had to use it in the first place." I said, "That Sentence is the entire problem. Have to use a card for yourself. He stormed down the hall, pulled open the guest room door like he'd catch me hiding a yes inside, and instead found June kneeling by the bed with the ceramic deer, whispering something private to it about which present to open next. He froze. It's hard for a man to yell at the room that made him small. They stayed. Not because I convinced them, because the world kept being real. Chapter 4. Dinner at 6, phones docked in the little basket I built with charging cables. We're adults, Caleb said, fingers twitching. Exactly, I said. We'll survive 70 minutes. I set place cards I made from scrap balsa wood, names burned in with a soldering iron. I'm a simple man. I carve boundaries into wood sometimes so people can see them with their hands. Place cards. Emma and June beside the guest room door to ease bedtime. Claire facing the tree because she loves the glow. Brooke next to the attic staircase because stairs are not wolves. Caleb by me because I wanted him to have a front row seat to a man who can be calm forever. Before we ate, I tapped the glass for a single house rule. No speech, no sermon. Just the reading of the code I wrote and printed and taped inside the pantry where rules should live. In this house, small people have beds. Adults carry their own weight, literal and otherwise. Respect is the default. Access is earned. Complaints require solutions attached. If you choose not to comply, we'll make the choice for you, kindly and with paper. I saw Brooke blink at the last word. Paper reaches where lectures can't. Dinner was excellent, because butter and heat are undefeated. Caleb's shoulders loosened about 1 millimeter per bite, which is a good rate for a man who only knows outrage or nap. He even laughed at one point when June told a story about a snowman that needed a helmet for safety. The room worked. Real rooms do that when you stop pretending feelings are furniture you can shove. There was one more chapter. I hadn't planned it for the dopamine. I planned it because families believe what they see more than they believe what they hear. Emma rose to take June to bed. Brooke opened her mouth, searching for a last argument about makeup space and flat surfaces. And then Claire, who holds 2 people in her chest, mother and woman, chose woman, and said to her daughter and son, "You two have spent years asking the nicest person in this house to flex for you. He just taught you how to stand up without stepping on a child. Say thank you, or say nothing, but don't say another thing about the guest room." I didn't expect it. That speech landed like the moment an elevator car clicks back into the guide rails, subtle but final. Caleb looked at his mother with the face of a boy who just realized the referee can see the whole field. He swallowed. "Thanks," he said, toward his plate more than toward me. Brooke whispered something like, "Okay." June hugged my knees on the way to bed and said, "Pop, my dear likes it here. If this were a movie, the credits would roll over cinnamon and forgiveness. This is not a movie." The motel charged them a hold and a night. Caleb texted me 2 days later wanting a reimbursement because that was for family. I sent him a screenshot of the reservation. Guest to pay at check-in. I added a note. That's for family too. He tried a new alley, mom's guilt. Claire, carrying the odd, quiet pride of someone who finally watched gravity put a thing down, said, "Your choices are your choices." The fallout came in small, adult ways. Caleb stopped broadcasting grievances for a week and, to my shock, started using the job log. 3 days later, he texted me a photo of a whiteboard with the title, Invoices. I said, "Proud of you, that's a good board." He sent a thumbs up and didn't make it weird. Brooke discovered the attic's skylight light is, in fact, perfect for makeup. She left the keypad code working for me on a sticky note like a truce flag. "If you ever need me to help with June's crafts, I'm good with glitter," she said to Emma at the door. It wasn't an apology. It was a hand, palm up. What did I learn? That men my age don't have to shout to be loud, that the smallest person in a room teaches the adults what the floor feels like, and we would do well to remember. That family isn't blood, family is policy, and that sometimes the most effective revenge doesn't look like punishment, it looks like architecture. You build a room where children are safe, and you build a rule where adults become honest, and you put the keys in the hands that know how to use them. But here's what I didn't tell you yet. And this is where it gets interesting. Because entitlement doesn't die with one lesson. It just learns to hide better. On New Year's Eve, 6 days. After Christmas, Caleb sent a group text suggesting we all go to his buddy's cabin upstate for a quote-unquote fresh start to the year. The cabin, he explained, only had 2 bedrooms. His plan? June could share the pull-out couch in the living room with the host's teenager, a 16-year-old boy she'd never met. When I pointed out that a 5-year-old girl shouldn't be rooming with a teenage stranger, Caleb wrote back, "You're overthinking it. They're both kids." That's when I knew the motel hadn't been enough. It was a warning shot, not a treaty. So I did what I do best. I drew another line, this time in permanent ink. I replied to the group, "Emma, June, and I will be staying home. You're welcome to join us here under the established house rules, or you're welcome to enjoy the cabin. No hard feelings either way." Brooke tried the guilt angle, texting Claire privately that I was tearing the family apart over logistics. Claire, to her eternal credit, forwarded me the message with a single sentence. "I told her logistics are how we know who's serious." Caleb called me that night, and this time his voice had a different frequency. It wasn't rage. It was something smaller, quieter. The voice of a man who realizes the walls aren't moving. "Tom," he said, "I don't get it. What do you want from me?" "I want you to think about June before you think about convenience," I said. "I want you to imagine being 5 years old in a house where the adults forgot you were small. I want you to stop treating kindness like a negotiation you can win if you just push harder." There was silence. Then, "Do you think I'm a bad person?" "I don't think you're bad," I said. "I think you're used to people moving when you lean. I'm just not one of them." He hung up without a goodbye, but the next morning he texted the group that he'd rethought the cabin, and maybe we should just do dinner at our place instead. No explanation, no apology, just a course correction, the kind men make when they finally feel the weight of their own choices. We had that dinner. It was quiet. Caleb helped with dishes without being asked. Brooke complimented the roast and asked June about her favorite Christmas present. Small gestures, the kind that mean more than speeches because they cost something to perform. At the end of the night, as they were leaving, Caleb stopped at the door and looked at the hall table where the red envelope had been. "You know," he said, "I thought you were punishing us." "I wasn't," I said. "I was protecting her." He nodded. Took him a minute, but he nodded. "I think I get that now." Brooke was already in the car, but through the window I saw her looking at the guest room, the one with the tree still up and the string lights still glowing. She didn't look angry. She looked like someone trying to remember what it felt like to be small and whether anyone had moved a tree for her. That's the thing about boundaries. They don't just protect the people inside them. They teach the people outside them what protection looks like. And sometimes, if you're lucky and you're patient and you refuse to move the wrong things, the people who pushed the hardest become the ones who learn to pull their weight. By mid-January, Caleb had 2 freelance contracts logged in his notebook. Brooke started babysitting June once a week so Emma could sleep after her overnight shifts. They didn't announce these changes. They didn't ask for credit. They just started showing up differently, the way people do when they finally understand the assignment. Claire asked me one night if I thought it was over, the tension, the pushing. I told her the truth. It's never over. Entitlement doesn't die. It just gets managed. But management is a kind of love, too. The kind that refuses to let people stay small by staying loud. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach. I'm a guy who fixes elevators and hosts Christmas and believes that the smallest person in the room deserves the biggest safety net. And if that makes me the bad guy in someone's story, I can live with that. Because June sleeps in a bed. Emma sleeps knowing her daughter is safe. Claire sleeps knowing her husband won't fold when the wind picks up. And me? I sleep like a man who moved the right machine out of the way and let the system run the way it was always supposed to. So here's my question for you, and I mean this sincerely. Was I wrong? Was the motel too much? Was the notebook petty? Was moving the tree an overreach? Or was it exactly what needed to happen for a 5-year-old to know she mattered more than anyone's skincare routine? Drop your verdict in the comments. Tell me if you've ever had to draw a line that made you the villain in someone else's holiday story. Tell me if you've been the Caleb or the Brooke, the one who didn't see it. Until someone made you look. And if you made it this far, If this story felt like your living room with the names changed, hit subscribe. We tell stories here where the truth gets to sit at the table, where the smallest person gets the warmest bed, and where grown men teach lessons with paperwork instead of decibels. This is Revenge Central. I'm Tom, and I'll see you in the next one.